When you think about some 9 or 10-year-olds, words like irritating, obnoxious, troublesome, and copycat come to mind. Children at this age are looking for role models. Whether they are mimicking something good or bad, they will always imitate something they have seen you do. Whether it's imitating what you did and said when you stomped your toe, or how you read a book at bedtime, children will always pick something up from you. So why not turn something that they seem to always do into something positive? By mimicking, it can influence positive learning, motivation, and promote great evaluation of learning abilities. In the article, repeating what children say, the roles are reversed. Instead of the child mimicking the adult mimics the child. In this study, the adult is instructed to mimic facial expressions, postures, body language, verbal content, and expression during an informal interview. By mimicking in a positive atmosphere, the mimickers are more likely to comply to a request, enhance the motivation as well as the individual's performance. This study tells us that the instructor studied 9 and 10-year-old students in which the mimicker used words that were asked to be repeated to conduct and see if the child would spend more time on the task given. The child will also have an increase of recall. This will lead the child to being more open about personal information than of someone who was not mimicked. The first study wanted to know if mimicry had an effect on children. The second study is the important one. This study was intended to see if the mimicry would perceive the mimicker more positively and have greater intimacy, inflection, rapport, and desire to help and increase motivation. The third study wanted to find out how much he or she liked the mimicker and if the mimicry felt like the mimicker understood them more. The children were separated into 4 groups of 14, 2 groups of boys and 2 groups of girls, which were subjected to 30-minute interviews. The inspector and the children were placed in secluded rooms to prevent outside influences. The instructor interviewed the children on what their dislikes and likes were. Also, in this interview, the instructor was instructed to either mimic the responses of the child or not. The instructor was also allowed to even mimic the tones of the children made during the interviews. For example, if the child said, "Yuck, I don't like the spinach at the canteen," or "I love oranges," the interviewer was instructed to repeat those words when noting down the response. In the non-mimicry environment, the instructor just responded in a natural tone and just wrote the child's response on the form. Throughout the entire interview, the children were mimicked 7 times during an 8-question interview. This gave them more and more security when asked each question. The mimicking presents a sense of security with the children. They don't feel like they are being mocked, but feel like they are on the same page as the interviewer. It is seen as the interviewer relates to them. In these results, the suggestion that the positive perception of an instructor in school tests will be increased by mimicry when the instructor interacted with a child. This strongly increases cognitive functioning, better verbal fluency, and has a positive feeling about learning. As this test was concluded, we have learned that mimicking children can lead to positive reinforcement on the child's behavior, socialism, personal relationships, learning abilities, and also vocal abilities. On the other hand, the differences of the results of the non-mimic child was not included in this test, but the non-mimic instructor enjoyed the positive results in the mimic child's behavior and would like the opportunity to test the non-mimic children in the same manner to see if the results would differ. In this article, mimicking can be done in a positive manner. It can prompt the children to comply with a request, reveal a secret, and admit silly things in a more Academic aspect, mimicking will promote positive learning, enhance motivation, and provide understanding between the children and the adults. So when a child starts mimicking you, don't think it don't think of it as annoying. Think of it as a learning experience. For example, if you read to a child every night and model great reading skills, they will imitate the way you read when they read alone. They will mimic the way you held the book and how you read the book, whether it was with enthusiasm or not. You can always promote learning through great mimicking skills. So why don't you sometimes switch it up? Start imitating the 9 or 10-year-olds around you positively and see if it promotes some type of motivation in them. So repeating what children say can positively influence their learning and can increase the amount of time spent on learning a task and increase their recall and also promote more interest and attention in the